It's day 2 at NASSCOM's product conclave, and Mugdha Warrior checked in with the heads of 3 startups, MoneyTap, BlackBuck and Bharat Innovation Fund, to ask them about starting up and scaling up for Bharat. Now, Mugdha started by asking Saras Agarwal of Bharat Innovation Fund about the kind of startups they invest in. Listen in.
We are a fund with close to $120 million under management. However, we have 2 themes. One is innovation out of India, where we do deep tech and fintech. And then, of course, we have a specific focus on the Bharat segment, where we focus on startups which are trying to solve for inclusion around fintech, health tech, and education and some of these impact-oriented areas. In terms of the startups that we've supported through them are companies like Kalidofin, which is essentially trying to do a savings product for the low-income segment, started by folks who were earlier running IFMR. Another company that we've supported is a company called Setu, which is trying to do sachet kind of financial products on top of India's stack. The idea essentially is, how do you democratize use of financial products, right, and make every company a fintech company, if I can say so, and sort of help adoption of financial products for the lower income segment as well, right? We've also supported a company called Credit Vidya, which is essentially using alternate data, right? In India, we know that there is, a CIBIL score, which predominantly is used by most of the large lenders, but the challenge that you have to solve for is, what do you do about thin file customers, right? And that's where Credit Vidya leverages alternate data and sort of helps lenders to lend to a segment which doesn't have a thick
file. On that note, because we are on fintech and credit, I'll come to you, Bala. I mean, you are offering credit to those who don't have credit scores or credit history, and it's a very unique product that you've built for Indian customers. You're giving a credit line because maybe a lot of Indians don't have credit cards. So tell us, what led you to build this product, and tell us a little bit about the total number of consumers that you've reached out to.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, Mugdha. So, MoneyTap, as you correctly said, is a line of credit product, and we introduced this first into the country about 3 years ago. And the motivation, my own personal motivation for doing this was some of the time I spent with the Aadhaar project, with the iSpirit team and the team that created the India stack, and actually going around the country and seeing. And this is back in 2010, 2011. Even then, the winds of change were blowing. Obviously, smartphones were not there, and people are still using GPRS at best. But what the iSpirit team and the India Stack team saw coming was very clear. The trends were going in the right direction. Everybody would have a smartphone. And here we are today with, probably one of the largest, fastest growing smartphone population in the world, widely penetrated. I don't think any of us would have anticipated the amount of data use that we are seeing today. So all of these were coming, and this is what motivated me personally, along with my co-founders, Anuj and Kunal, to start MoneyTap. And MoneyTap was basically the same idea of sachetization that Saras just talked about, of credit, right? So we are focused only on credit. Credit is one of the most important functions in somebody's life, most importantly, as well as obviously the economy. And our goal was to give as small amount of credit as possible, but still make it financially viable to run a good company, right? The problem with giving 100 rupee credit, for example, is that it's not viable financially, because it's financially viable to evaluate and underwrite at that level. But what we did is that we will give you a line of credit, which is a one-time approval, using alternate data that Saras talked about. We have our own AI models which use, we use CIBIL data if it's there. We use all kinds of alternate data to evaluate somebody for credit. But we believe strongly that once somebody has approved for credit, they should be able to take sachet-size credit. You should be able to take a few thousand rupees or a few lakhs if you're eligible for that. You should be able to borrow it for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, whatever you want.
So making credit very flexible,
very flexible,
Indianized for Bharat, like I say.
Absolutely.
And with that, Chanakya, let me come to you next. BlackBuck has gotten into a completely unorganized sector in India. I think you work with fleet owners who have about 5 to 10 trucks, so completely unorganized. Tell us what that experience was and how you're kind of looking to get them into the digital economy, so to say.
Sure, Mugdha. So at BlackBuck, we are trying to create a marketplace platform for probably one of the more underserved sections of our society, right? Fleet owners and truck drivers, right? Now, just to give you some context, what we're trying to do is create a platform where we can onboard these truck owners, truck drivers, and match them with shippers on the other side, corporates and SMEs, so that their trucks can be fully utilized. At the same time, we're also providing them trucking inputs, which means a platform for fueling, a platform for tolling, a platform for buying tires, GPS, right, as well as working capital loans on a technology platform, right? So just to give some context, there are about 10 million trucks in the country today, run by about 3 million fleet owners and 12 million drivers, right? It's a large section of society which is involved in the entire trucking business, right? A typical persona of a fleet owner is somebody who's been, who stays in a tier 3, tier 4 city or a town or a village, right? These guys work in communities, right? They have trucking communities.
Right.
Typically, they are either farmers involved in agriculture, or they have a shop, or they are mechanics, right? Who have bought trucking as an investment, who have bought trucks as an investment, right? And they have a secondary business of trucking, right?
Right.
So this is the typical persona of fleet owners in the country today. Now, the entire challenge is how do you bring them online, right? So what we have seen in the last 4.5 years of our journey is that smartphone penetration in India has really taken a swing up, right? About 80-85% of our truck owners in the country have smartphones today. About 40% of our drivers in the country have smartphones today, right? And people are already on the internet wave, right? But the way that they use internet is very different from how you and I would be using it, right? So they use very visual apps, right? They use video apps, right? They would be using TikTok, they would be using WhatsApp, right? Rather than using a lot of social media. So the way that they use apps is very different in the country, and that's how we've also tried to build our own products, right? Where it can be very intuitive, where it can be very simple for them to navigate, and where we can have localized versions of the app. So we have apps in all the languages of India, right? We have a lot of focus on voice-based, right? So the people can just click on a button and the voice comes out and they can hear what is happening there.
So
right?
you're innovating for how they are using the internet and the mobile.
The important thing is to get into the psyche of the truck owners and drivers, and see from their perspective in terms of how they use the platform today.
But you say that they're using TikTok, they're using that now, but this may not have been the case about 4 to 5 years earlier when you started. So what were the challenges when you started and you decided, okay, this is the market we need to address? It's unorganized, it's not what a lot of the unicorns and so are doing. But what are the challenges? And maybe Chanakya, you can take off. Yeah.
Sure. So I think the biggest challenge is education on technology, right? I think we've invested a lot of effort, a lot of time on educating fleet owners in the country, right? So we have people who have gone to them, who have trained them on the app, who have shown them the app flow, who have worked with them, right? I think that has been the biggest challenge and will continue to be a challenge for some time, because these are first-time users. Right? They've just come onto the smartphone wave a year or 2 years back, right? And BlackBuck is actually one of the first apps that they're using, right? So after WhatsApp and TikTok, I think BlackBuck would usually be the third app on their phone, right? So educating them on how to navigate, educating them on how to do the transactions, right? A lot of our transactions work online, right? So payments works online. So educating them on net banking, right? So doing all of that goes along with the
Because they always want
entire
cash and so on.
Yes.